All right, welcome to The Explainer. So let's talk about something I know a lot of experienced engineers are dealing with. You're trying to land those big staff or principal roles, but you just can't seem to break through. Well, you might be surprised to hear the problem probably isn't your skill, it's your resume. Today, we're going to break down the mindset shift you need to make and how to re-architect your resume to finally land those top-tier jobs. So let's get right into it, right? You've put in the years. You're the one they call for the really tough problems at your company, but when you apply for that next level role, you get crickets. It is an incredibly common frustration, and the answer usually comes down to a really subtle but critical mistake in how we talk about our work. A lot of the time, the root of this issue is a trap that's super easy to fall into. It's called resume-driven development, or RDD for short. This is when we, as engineers, get so focused on chasing the next shiny technology to add to our resume that we forget to ask if it's actually the right tool for the job. Okay, to really nail this down, let's walk through a little story. Let's meet an engineer we're going to call generic Jason. Now, Jason's team has a pretty straightforward task. They need to build a simple little dashboard for the customer support folks to look up orders and maybe issue a refund. We're talking low traffic, simple data, something you could probably knock out in a weekend. But that's not what Jason does, is it? Instead, he comes in and pitches this absolute beast of a system, a massively complex, over-engineered stack. And the big question is, why? It's not because the business needs it, it's because he's thinking about how awesome multi-region Kubernetes and Rust backend are going to look on his LinkedIn profile. And this, right here, this is the absolute core of the issue. When you get to the senior levels, hiring managers value judgment and restraint way more than a long list of buzzwords. They're looking for wisdom, not just someone who's checking boxes on a tech bingo card. So, how do you break through that career ceiling? Well, it starts with a really fundamental shift in your mindset. You have to move your focus, and just as importantly, your resume, away from talking about your output and start talking about the outcome of your work. You see, the way you're judged completely flips as you get more senior. A junior engineer, they're hired to produce output. Can they write code? Can they ship a feature that works? Great. But a staff engineer, they're hired to produce outcomes. Can they save the company from making $1 million mistake? Can they reduce risk? Can they drive real business value? It's a totally different ballgame. And here's exactly what that looks like on paper. The first example, that's the output drop. It's like a diary entry of what you did. It just states a fact. The other one, that's a sales pitch. It quantifies the business impact with hard numbers connecting a tech choice directly to saving a ton of money. That is the language of a staff engineer. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? To prove you operate at this level, your resume needs to be broadcasting what we're going to call the 5 golden signals of a staff-level engineer. These are the big 5. These are the key areas where you can prove you have strategic impact: saving money, taming tech debt, making your team better, building stable systems, and using data to drive performance. You don't need all 5 on your resume, but you have to crush at least one of them. All right, first up, the FinOps signal. In today's market, there is absolutely nothing, I mean nothing, that will make a hiring manager's ears perk up faster than an engineer who gets that every line of code ultimately has a cost. And the formula here is actually pretty simple, but man, is it powerful. You connect an architectural decision directly to a financial result. Take that example. Reduced AWS monthly spend by 25%, but then you add the dollar amount, $15K per mo, by doing something specific. That is concrete, it's quantifiable, and it screams business awareness. Signal number 2, the legacy wrangler. Look, junior engineers love the shiny new stuff, the greenfield projects, but let's be real, the most valuable and often most difficult work happens in the messy, complicated legacy codebases. You've got to prove you can dive into that complexity and make it better, safely. The key here is showing you can handle this stuff without breaking everything. Mentioning a specific, well-known technique like the strangler fig pattern does just that. It shows you know established architectural patterns and you can be trusted with a high-stakes project like migrating a payment gateway with zero downtime. That's a huge signal of seniority. This one is huge. A real staff-level engineer isn't just about their own code. It's about making everyone around you better. Your influence has to scale beyond your own keyboard. You have to be what's known as a force multiplier. Think about it. You introduce something like a formal design doc process. Not only does that cut down on rework by a whopping 30%, which is awesome, but look at the bonus effect. It also makes it way easier for new people to get up to speed. That's leverage. That's a force multiplier. Okay, signal number 4 is all about resiliency. Here's the difference. When something breaks, a junior engineer fixes the bug. A staff engineer changes the system so that entire class of bug can never, ever happen again. And here's a pro tip. Don't just use percentages. Saying you improved uptime from 99.5% to 99.99%, I mean, that sounds okay, but what does it mean? Translating that into, we reduced our monthly downtime from 43 minutes to just 4 minutes, makes the impact feel real. It's tangible. It shows you understand the true cost of downtime. And that brings us to our 5th and final signal, being data-driven. This is about proving that your big architectural decisions come from cold, hard data, not just a gut feeling or whatever's trending on Hacker News this week. This is the grand slam. You connect the entire story. You start with a deep technical diagnosis using a specific tool, you show a massive performance win, and then, and this is the absolute money shot, you tie it directly to a critical business outcome, like a 12% jump in conversions. That's the whole story, from code to cash. So when you put all these signals together, it paints a really powerful picture. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, getting inside the mind of the person who's actually hiring you, because you have to understand why these signals matter so much. You have to understand that when a hiring manager asks you a question, there's the question you hear, and then there's the real question they're trying to answer. They're always digging for something deeper. So they ask, tell me about a time you failed. They don't just want a story. What they're really testing for is your ego. Are you humble? Can you take responsibility, or do you blame other people? When they ask why you chose a specific database, they're not checking if you're a fanboy. They're testing your ability to analyze and articulate complex trade-offs. And this all boils down to one single massive truth. Hiring managers are terrified of making a bad hire at this level. A bad junior engineer is a problem. A bad staff engineer, that's a disaster. It can derail a product for a year and burn out an entire team. They are not looking for the smartest person in the room. They are looking for the safest bet. So here's what I want you to do. Tonight, pull up your resume, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Ask this one question. Is this document just a biography, a simple list of the things I did? Or is it a marketing document that sells the incredible value I created? Getting that answer right could literally change the entire trajectory of your career.